I'm Leah Small, and this is Virginia Voices, where you will hear first-person stories from people most affected by current politics, policy, and economic trends. We give Virginians outside the news a full stage to explore their thoughts and experiences beyond a few sound bites or paragraphs in a daily news story. Virginia Voices is a project of the Virginia Center for Investigative Journalism at WHRO. Christmas has always been deeply meaningful for Kristie Askew, a reverend of the Methodist Church living in Mathews County. The holiday reminds her of her oldest daughter, Brianna Nicole Sulc, born on December 23, 1997. But the season also marks a time of great sorrow. Askew's family story is one of unspeakable loss and new hope. Can you tell me about your baby, Brianna? Who was Brianna and what was she like?
Brianna was a light in this world, full of smiles, sunshine. She lit up the room everywhere she went. Some of the things she loved to do was swimming. She learned to play the guitar. She loved to sing. She loved musical theater and didn't ever do anything on stage, but she did a little bit backstage, and that was kind of our favorite thing to do together, go and watch performances and in the area.
And can you tell me about when she was born?
She was born 2 days before Christmas, December 23rd. We brought her home on Christmas morning, and it was, of course, she was my first baby, so I was a new mother, learning a lot, and it was Christmas Day, so I wanted to be able to take her to the family, to go to Grandma's house and see people for Christmas and, of course, show off the new baby. I remember the hospital made a huge Christmas stocking that the babies could fit into. So we brought her home in that when we got home to our house and put her in this big stocking and laid her under the Christmas tree.
That's precious.
And that's like my first Christmas ornament that I have of her. We put a picture of her in it for baby's first Christmas. Her in this little Christmas stocking, like she's our gift, under the Christmas tree. So, yeah.
Becoming a mother on Christmas, does it make the holiday did it make the holiday a little more special?
It did. Christmas for me is also a big part of my faith, where I celebrate the birth of Jesus. So to have a child born at the same time, it kind of helped me connect to Mother Mary and her experiences in those days, and just becoming a new mom and what it is like, and just experiencing that unconditional love that we hear a lot about but don't always experience it. And that truly was, there's nothing I wouldn't have done for her. Just the love that's there is just so natural and just blossomed. For her, she didn't like having her birthday at Christmas as she got older, because she felt she didn't get as many gifts or something. So the Mad Hatter had happy unbirthday tea parties. And so it just kind of came out of that she had a happy unbirthday in May. She just picked a month before summer would come so she could get summertime clothes and things to enjoy the summer with. But yeah.
Are there any favorite Christmas memories you have of Brianna?
When she was, I think, about 8 years old, the most special memory to me was that we had been talking about her faith journey, who Jesus is to her. She kind of came out of the blue close to Christmas time and asked if she could be baptized for Christmas. We talked about that, and she said she just wanted to give herself to God for Christmas. That was her Christmas present to God that year, and that was very meaningful for, I think, her and for me to see her make that decision. We were living in Norfolk, and not all of our family could get there because it was on Christmas Eve, but I think that was okay for her, because she wasn't about just the big show and to do. It was just special for her. something, it just between her and God, her and her faith, that she was beginning to own and understand for herself. So that's what I think made it a little extra special. The church is decorated with candles, Christmas tree, greenery, and she's in this white baptismal gown. The baptismal is up behind the pulpit area, like where the choir loft was. Of course, I was sitting out in the audience. She was with the pastor, and it was just kind of surreal to see, that she was given to me on Christmas in my mind, but giving herself to God on Christmas, it was just a really special experience.
Christmas changed for the family in 2016. That year, Brianna had just turned 19.
The last time I had seen her was on her birthday, 2 days before Christmas. That's the last picture I even have with her. She's sitting on my lap and gave me a big hug and wished her happy birthday. And she had plans with some friends, but she was going to spend Christmas Eve with her dad because we had been divorced for a number of years. Christmas morning, she had planned to come back to my home. We would have Christmas with our extended family that afternoon. Around 2 o'clock is when we had planned to gather with family. She was coming home from her dad's, and we were driving to my aunt and uncle's in King and Queen County. And there is a sharp curve on the road that we would take to my aunt and uncle's house. We were approaching that and found a car accident. Could not tell what kind of car it was when we approached it, but it was a really horrible accident. The car looked so mangled, like a ball of metal. You couldn't tell the make or model, really, from the angle that we were at. The deputies were rerouting traffic, but we just needed to go on this side road, and there's a cemetery right there as well, so we cut through the cemetery. And going around that, we saw the tail lights of the car from another angle, and it looked similar to her car. And then I saw the license plate, and she had a special license plate with her name on it. Just told, I can't remember if it was my son or my husband driving, but told them to stop. I think it was my husband, and got out and went over there to the car. She was not on site, but it was her car. Her belongings were kind of out on the road a little. The thing that I noticed was her bear. She had a stuffed bear in the big blue house from when she was like 1 year old, and had carried that with her all her life. And there was a deputy that came over to me and asked me if I knew the driver of the car. And I had told him that I was her mother, and he just said I needed to get to the hospital immediately, that she had already been taken. And I wanted to gather her stuff, and he's like, no, you need to go to the hospital. So I didn't really know a lot. She was taken to the local hospital closest to us in Gloucester. From there, we were able to see her for a few minutes as they stabilized her, but she was not awake. She was unconscious. She had a broken arm, not broken, but her spleen had been ruptured. Thank you. Her had a lot of brain trauma from the impact because the highway that it was on, it's 55 miles an hour. And there was glass all in her hair. Just a horrible image and picture, but we were able to see her, the family. We were able to get in touch with some of the family that had already gathered for Christmas and tell them what had happened. They met us at the hospital as well. She was stabilized and needed to be flown to a trauma hospital, so she was flown to Big Riverside in Newport News, had a few surgeries. I had called her father to come and just go straight to Big Riverside. And, we spent Christmas night in the hospital all together as a family. Even her best friends came. My pastor came. Even her boss and co-workers came and spent Christmas with us there in the hospital. And that meant a lot because everybody has family, that they're with for Christmas and have plans, and everybody just kind of dropped everything to be there with us and through that. It was late into the night when she had finished the surgeries and was put in a room. There wasn't a lot of hope. It was pretty grim, mainly because of the brain trauma. And so we had basically 3 days to kind of wait and see how the brain would respond to the trauma, and looking for brain swelling, blockages of blood to the brain, things like that. And ultimately she was brain dead because of the lack of blood flow to the brain. Those first couple of days after she came out of surgery, I know that she could hear us talking to her. She knew that we were with her, because there was a point where her vitals were kind of up and down, and they were really worried she was not going to make it because her blood pressure was dropping. And when I was able to get in the room with her and speak to her, and I would sing to her, she just calmed, and her numbers evened out, and she was just at peace. And that brought me a lot of comfort, to know that she could hear us.
Can you tell me about the moment you lost her?
It was about 5-6 days later, New Year's Eve. Even though she was diagnosed brain dead, we were trying to honor her wishes. Well, we were asked first if she was an organ donor, and we weren't 100% sure, but her father and I agreed that that was something we felt she would want, and then we later found out it was on her driver's license that she was an organ donor. So there were a couple extra days we waited for the organ donation team to line everything up for recipients. To me, it was also kind of God's hands upon it. We still had hope that miracles happen. And so we never stopped praying, and the people around her never stopped praying. And so her best friends wanted to organize a prayer vigil on New Year's Eve. And they lined it up with the hospital to meet outside under their flagpole. And we invited, the community to come and just pray. And it was set to be at like 5 o'clock, kind of sunset prayer around the flagpole. They had scheduled this, I guess, the day before. So the day of, on New Year's Eve, that's when we were approached when her surgery time would be for the organ donation, that everything had come together. They had recipients notified, and it was going to be at the exact same time as the surgery. The prayer vigil would be the exact same time as the surgery. It was a blessing because not me nor our family had to sit in a waiting room, kind of dwelling on what was happening to her and her body in that moment, for someone to just come out and say it's over. And I know they're very delicate. All the staff was wonderful with us. Instead, we were surrounded by just people who loved us. it was, I think, helpful to all the family to have that support there in that moment.
To know that Brianna was a selfless person in life, and at the end of life, she was able to help so many people by choosing to be an organ donor.
I'm proud of her for making that choice. When I think about her with her friends, she was always one that went the extra mile, that went out of her way to try to brighten somebody's day. She was so creative whenever she gave gifts to her friends and her family. She loved to make things and give, personal, creative gifts. That just shows her heart to me, that she wanted others to be happy and to know how much she cared about them. And as an organ donator, she wanted others' lives to continue to receive some sort of blessing, to extend their life and to live on even if she couldn't.
What do you know about the recipients?
I only know really of 4 different situations. One gentleman received her liver, and there was a young woman who received her kidney. And then, from what I understand, her corneas were donated, but I don't know anything about those persons. We were able to meet the liver recipient. Jeffrey Whitaker was his name. And he was actually local. He heard about the story on the news and actually reached out to us after he had had his surgery. He just kind of put 2 and 2 together that her story was on the news, and then he got this phone call. So that it was kind of an unofficial contact, but we welcomed it and really enjoyed getting to know him. We ended up meeting him at a Virginia Tech football game. He invited us to meet him and his daughter. So we went up to Virginia Tech probably that fall, I would imagine, for football season, and met him and enjoyed an afternoon with him. And that was an experience that's kind of hard to describe, because I feel like I could sense her there, like her spirit, even though there's an organ of hers within him. It was almost like her face was shining through his even. Just this light and joy that was given to him, but it was through her. And, he would even meet with us at the graveside for her birthdays, to remember her birthdays. He reached out to me and her dad on Mother's Day and Father's Day, and just very thankful for the gift of life that it gave to him. He was in his 50s, and one of the biggest things that he wanted to be able to do was see his daughter graduate from college and get married, and he was able to do that. He did pass away last year from another form of an aggressive cancer, unfortunately, but Brianna gave him that gift to see his daughter do the things that he wanted to see.
Gave him time and closure, which is so important. And how has marking Christmas changed for you, and how do you try to be forward-looking?
That's probably the most difficult thing for our family. For me, I stay pretty busy because as a pastor, I've got a lot of Christmas activities, Christmas Eve services, things like that. But I'm always mindful to take some time to celebrate Brianna for her birthday, for one, but also remember her life and everything that happened that day. The day that she passed was on a Sunday, and I was in church that morning. 6 years later, Christmas fell on a Sunday again. That was 2 years ago. So I took that time in church to just be honest with the people that it was a hard Sunday for me. So many people The holidays can be hard for her because we've all lost loved ones, and we all have memories from holidays with family and friends, and the holidays can be hard when we think about those things. The church was very supportive. I mean, they've been since it's happened, but it made for a special Sunday for all of us because we shed some tears, but we also smiled and rejoiced. We've come to a point where, like, we'll take cupcakes to the grave on her birthday and just sit there together and eat a cupcake and sing happy birthday, blow out a candle. And we'll decorate her grave for Christmas. We'll bring out a little Christmas tree. The rest of the year, it's always sunflowers. She loved sunflowers. And I think Christmas Day, spending the day together, gift giving and things like that, hasn't been as important as just being together.
Definitely. That connection, the real meaning of the holiday.
Yeah. There's always an emptiness from her not being there, but it helps us to be together.
And faith is obviously incredibly central to your life.
Yeah.
How has your faith changed or shaped after the loss of your daughter, and then meeting someone who received the gift of life from her? Both two impactful, life-changing experiences. How did they impact your faith?
I think it has just made it stronger. From the day of her accident, I was never angry with the other driver. An accident is an accident. It's a tragic and unfortunate, horrible accident, but it was an accident. I did have to question some things. Why did God let this happen? And I think it's just grown my faith. I don't believe that God made it happen. I don't think God took his angel back, as some people say. The bad things that happen in our world are more just from human error, human mistakes, and because I believe that our God is good. Seeing, like, Jeffrey and the change that it made in his life, he grew closer to God through the experience, which was encouraging and uplifting. When you're facing death, you just have so many questions, and it's easy to begin grieving even before, to be angry, to deny it, to want something different. And Jeffrey had shared struggles that he had had with his diagnosis with his liver, and the gift of the liver really opened his eyes to kindness in others, love in others, and kindness and love are really central to my faith. Jesus said, love God and love one another. So for him to see people in a different light, I think that was an important thing for me. It didn't really change my faith other than strengthening it. Forgiveness, I think, is important for all of us, just to let go of those things that hold us back. And to see that happen just kind of opened my eyes to what forgiveness really can do for us. I've learned over the years that the grief that I experienced from her loss really drives me in my ministry with people. Not that they have to have the same kind of loss, but there's loss experienced in a lot of different ways, whether it's a loss of a child or a parent, a loss of a job, a loss of a relationship, whatever it is. It has given me, I guess, just that strength to sit with people in those hard moments, those tragic moments, and just to be present. You don't have to have the right words to say, but just to be there with them, and they know that they're not alone.
When peace like a river
Each organ donor can save 8 lives, and every 8 minutes, someone is added to the organ transplant waiting list, according to the Health Resources and Services Administration. Roughly 60% of Americans are registered organ donors. I'm host and producer Leah Small. Virginia Voices is a project of the Virginia Center for Investigative Journalism at WHRO. Executive producers are Christopher Tyree and Lewis Hansen. The podcast is edited by Chris and myself. Virginia Voices is made possible through a grant by Virginia Humanities and donors like you. You can read the story and see photos from today's show and past episodes on our website, vcij.org, which is linked in our bio. On behalf of everyone here at the Virginia Center for Investigative Journalism, thank you for your time and support.